Hello, everyone, and welcome to Look Down There, the show where we talk about all the things we don't talk about. I'm your host, Michelle Amore. Today, my guest is a multidisciplinary artist who specializes in multimedia, mixed media, murals, and body painting. She was a producer and a judge for the popular body painting competition show Skin Wars with a little known host, RuPaul. And she is also the founder of Skin City Body Painting here in Las Vegas. Please welcome my guest today, Robin Slonina. Hi, Robin.
Hi, so happy to be here, Michelle.
So happy to see your beautiful face. You are always a joy to talk to, and your art is spectacular and fun and whimsical. And, we got to work together a long time ago, years ago. I would love a redo of that. But yeah, I got to experience your work on my body, and you were fabulous. But yeah, I got to thinking about all the work that you do with nude people, and I thought you would be a great guest.
Well, thank you. And your body paint is still one of my favorites of all time, just because of like the realism of the stockings and the lingerie. Like, I feel like together we really just kind of knocked it out of the park, and we got such amazing photos. And I actually used a picture of you. I remember telling you before I did it, but as our ad at the Burlesque Hall of Fame big weekender, which for anyone that doesn't know, it's basically like the Miss America of Burlesque, where people come and compete, and you've competed in that.
Yeah, I won in 2005.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's basically like you guys are all listening to the Miss America of Burlesque, that she was a crown holder.
Yeah. Yes. It's an old rusty crown now, but it's still a crown. God damn it. So I was looking on your site, and you said that you really enjoy taking the do not touch sign off of art. So why is that important to you?
Well, I think a lot of people will spend their entire lives and never step foot into the classic white box of an art gallery, where you've got the white walls and the white pedestals and everything's a big white square, which is, supposedly thought of as like a neutral backdrop, but it's a pretty strange, rarefied environment if you think about it. If you walked into a box of any other color, like a bright red box with bright red boxes in it, and you'd think it's strange, but for some reason we all just accept that the white box is the way to view art. And it's very much putting things literally on a pedestal. And, while of course that has its place, and, some works of art are very old and you need to protect them, and, you can't have your paws all over everything. But for me, I much prefer in my art practice to remind people that art can be an integral and fun part of everyday life, and that the graffiti murals that you walk past on the way to, get your coffee in the morning, or, even the design of the bike you're riding, or that, Netflix poster that really catches your eye and speaks to you when you're waiting for the subway or something. I just feel like there's so many ways that we don't even realize that art is like reaching out and touching us. And so when you have artwork that people are invited to touch, I think it just kind of drives that point home that, art can be playful, art can be fun, and art can give pleasure. And so, that's something that I always strive for.
Do you have a memory where you've had a really great kind of immersive experience with art, where you were able to get up in there and touch it and it moved you in a certain way?
Oh gosh, so many, because I'm such a lover of like exploring the arts. Every city I go to, I'm going to definitely check out the museums and the galleries. Sleep No More was really fun, because that was, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, it's this immersive performance piece that really emphasizes dance and theater, maybe a little bit more than visual art. But it's in a huge warehouse in New York City, and you enter into the space and you're separated from the people that you came with, which I thought was a super genius move, because it really forces you to be outside of your comfort zone in the little pack that you came in with and really experience things on your own. Everyone's given this crazy mask, which looks a little bit like one of those old plague bird masks where it sort of hides your identity. It's very lowly lit. And so it's difficult to even find the group of people that you came in because everyone's sort of looking the same in this dark environment. And so you really go and you have your own experience, and it sort of pushes you, outside of yourself, outside of your boundaries to just find your own adventure inside this space. So that kind of thing, I just dig that kind of thing so much.
Yes. Have I told you about my Sleep No More experience?
No.
Oh, Robin. I'm sweating just thinking about it. So I got separated from the group right away. I mean, they could spot me from a mile away that I was, freaked out and didn't want to be separated. But as soon as we got, and one of the things they tell you too is that you can't talk. So you're just like wearing this mask and you're not supposed to talk. And we get in the elevator, and then I get taken off the elevator right away. Immediately. I'm the only one out, and I tried not to go. I just stared at him, and he was like, "No, you're coming with." So yeah, I had this crazy, weird experience with just one other actor. It was just one other actor and me in a hallway with flickering lights, and she's panicking in my face and putting me in a wheelchair and putting the wheelchair back. And, and it was just that super freaked me out. But the thing about it that was cool about that experience is that we could all come together at the end and talk about the different things that we found and experienced. So that was really cool. And I also thought the sound design was really amazing in that as well. I don't know if you found that.
And the lighting and the cool installations. There was some crazy retro room that looked like a sort of a padded cell in an asylum. There was this forest made from real tree branches. And yeah, the whole thing was kind of just what I'm talking about, where it's you can't, it's not something that you passively look at. It's art that pulls you in and gives you an experience.
Mm-hmm. And so how does that experience translate to body paint? Because those are people that probably do not want to be touched while they're naked and moving through the room. So how does that idea or your philosophy apply to body painting?
Well, definitely being a body painter, you are almost in the position of a physician crossed with a makeup artist or a hairstylist, because, you're touching people. And I feel like you have to really put people at ease. Skin City Body Painting's been in Las Vegas for, over 15 years now. And so we've painted hundreds and hundreds of bodies. And it's a big difference between hiring a professional model who's very used to this, who, gets undressed on the regular in a back room to change into, it's just a different, like theater people, they really, whatever boundaries they may have had as far as people seeing them dressing and undressing have probably broken away at this point, because it's just such a normal part of the job. So, with models that are used to be physically fussed over, putting in and out of garments, it's usually they're very comfortable. But then we also do private clients who have never had an experience like this before, and maybe have never really been that undressed in front of people before. At Skin City, we generally do preferably my favorite way to body paint would just be a thong, some sort of undergarment, and then bare chested. But we have to deal with all kinds of rules as far as where's the end result that these, is it going to be a picture in a magazine? Is there going to be restrictions about that? Is it going out into the world at an event? It's Vegas. So is it going to be within 200 feet of gambling? Because that affects, you can have nipple coverage, which is normal size pasties. If you're within 200 feet of gaming, it's a different kind of pasty. You have to custom make them because they don't exist on the market. It has to be like from like the top of the nipple to the bottom of the breast. And I see you sort of saying under boob, like, yes, you've got to cover the under boob in order to have gambling nearby. It's so many restrictions. I think the restrictions in Vegas come from, of course, like what are the root of most things is money. Like you have to have totally different permits if you're going to have a strip club, for instance. Like, if it's fully nude, you can't have a liquor license. And so there's only I think one or two that are grandfathered in from back in the day where they can have alcohol, but any real like fully nude strip club in Vegas, you can't drink alcohol in it. And so, that's why girls mostly have on thongs and, even some nipple coverage sometimes. So all of these body down to the body part are regulated here in Vegas. So we have to be aware of all of those like restrictions and where is it going. And so then there's also like the client, are they conservative? Like, or do they want to have fun? Do they want to have something sexy? Is it's like a high roller party at a suite where, they don't mind if the girls are in pasties and the thong? Or is this a conservative convention or a trade show where we've sometimes painted bodysuits, like women that are just like from the bottom of the chin to the ankle to the wrist covered in a bodysuit. And then we paint the bodysuit, for conservative clients. So it really runs the gamut.
Wow. Yeah. Bodysuit, but then they get to keep it, which is kind of cool. Even though maybe we just end up painting over it or using it for something else. Because I don't think anyone wants like a bunch of logos on a white bodysuit. Yeah. Oh my gosh. The first time I did body painting was like such a terrible experience, and it was just really ugly. Like what they did was really ugly. It was like some like Clockwork Orange party, something. I don't know. It was a long time ago, early in my career. And they painted me all white and then did like swirly black lines with some clocks on it. And I was like, what? Okay, and so then I was just supposed to go dance. But that was my first experience with body painting. My experience with you was much better, and I was totally naked. But I remember when you had to get like in between my butt crack, and I was like, "Whoa, that's cold." It's like, and we didn't really know each other very well then, but I was just like, I am totally bending over in your face right now.
Yeah, and it's not the first, and it won't be the last. I'm so used to it. It's funny. I had a male body painter named Nick tell me about language. I was actually judging a competition, and he was teaching at the competition. And so, I popped in to just listen to his class, and I thought it'd be fun to hear somebody else's perspective. And I thought it was so smart of him and this was really early on in my career. So it was great to hear this early, because then I used it in all my trainings at Skin City, where he would say, don't say bend over, say lean forward. Never say spread your legs, say step your feet apart. And I thought it was so interesting because that was something, and I don't know if I was using that more loaded, sexualized language myself prior to that. But, as a male artist, I think he was smart to be a lot more sensitive about that. And I thought that was great advice. So, we always try to implement, really professional language that's, we're not going to even refer to body parts in slang. We're not going to say like, oh yeah, your tits look great with that color, or I really like the way that your boobs look when I'm angling the paint here. Like, we just don't use that language because I think it helps almost like with a medical setting where you just sort of keep it very neutral and matter of fact. Like, this is just a very normal everyday activity, and sort of remove the like sexualization of it and really focus more on like the art.
Yeah, it's so important to not use that charged language when you're in a situation like that, especially because there's so much trust between you and the model, and they're your canvas, right? So what inspires you most about the body as your canvas?
Well, it's really challenging because it's not flat. And so, like, especially if you're doing some sort of illusion body paint where you need to have straight lines, with like, or you're doing some sort of camouflage where you're sort of blending somebody into something that has straight lines, or you're doing logos with straight lines, like to achieve something that looks like a straight line on a curved body is very tricky. And also, like, from different perspectives, like you might have a logo that looks perfectly straight from the front, but as soon as the model turns 3/4 view, it's going to distort the line again. So you really have to like figure out the end game. Is this going to be for a photograph that you can sort of maintain that 1 point perspective, or is this going to be at a live event where people are going to be moving around and looking at the model from different angles? So those are all things you just sort of have to take into consideration. And then the other thing I think is a huge important point is like model safety. You are sending these people that are vulnerable out into a public space, a public sphere, where you have to really make sure that they feel safe, they feel protected. And I have to say, I'm so happy that like we haven't had any incidences. We haven't had anybody groped or grabbed, or, we're so cautious about it before the job happens that we want to know where are they going to be, who's going to be watching them, or can they be paired up, and I think also we just don't take jobs if it's like some sort of crowded nightclub where they're supposed to be, we're a little bit picky about like where we put, like we'll have clients that are in, it's winter and they're like, and then we're going to put these body painted models painted like marble out on the marble balcony of this like beautiful high rise because we're trying to sell the building. And we're like, yeah, they're going to be cold out there. You can't put a naked model out on a balcony. Like they're just thinking of them as objects and not humans. And so, up into a certain temperature will require heaters and brakes and things like that. And then past a certain temperature, we're like, no, they're just not going outside, guys. Like, get that. Let's think of a different idea. They're going to be inside on the marble countertop because that's not happening how you're envisioning. Sorry. So I think just being realistic and thinking ahead about the model comfort is always like a big part of that job, because you need to negotiate those things ahead of time to like avoid problems on site.
Yeah. Yeah. So important to have an advocate in situations like that. And it is so funny. Like people just totally just think, oh, the pretty girl's in the corner. Like they don't even think about like any comfort or anything they might need. I mean, there's so many times where, venues will be like, yeah, and then you'll just dance and it'll just happen. And I'm like, well, I need all of these things for things to just happen. So
once in a while, I need to drink. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, where am I going to put my stuff? Oh, just in the bathroom? No. Like, what? I'm not showing up in costume and leaving in costume. Like, come on. Yeah. But I wonder if people maybe keep hands off because they're not used to touching art, and the models are art. So maybe that works in your favor.
Yes, maybe that's true. Although, the times that I have had models who have complained as far as like, I don't like the vibe here. I'm starting to feel like this is becoming unsafe. Let's deal with it. Let's nip it in the bud. It's so funny because most of the time it's women that feel like they are able to, and this is very anecdotal. I don't have any like, statistics or analysis to back this up. I mean, I think it's probably drunk women, to be honest, that feel like, oh, I'm a woman, she's a woman. It's okay for me to grab her ass. Or it's okay for me to be like, oh my God, is that paint? Like, like lick your finger and try to rub it off kind of thing. And so, that is so curious to me that I think it's good. And maybe we set up the events too, where men feel like there's no way I'm going to touch this. Like I'm going to get in trouble if I touch her. I think there's that vibe, and that women can break through that perceived like barrier and feel like more entitled to sort of, attempt to get too close to touch to, in situations where they shouldn't. So I think that's kind of curious.
Oh yeah, I will back you up on that 100%, Robin. Like I've had the most like boundary crossing with women in my whole career, like really inappropriate stuff where I'm just like, this is not okay. Like I know we're both women, but come on now. I feel like women, I don't know. I think yes, I think the drunken level is definitely a factor in there, but I think women just like I don't know. They don't know how to like if they perceive something as an object, like I feel like they're so used to being the object so that when it's turned on someone else, they kind of feel like maybe camaraderie or like an entitlement to it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want you to do a study on this because it is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I know. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, but we don't have to unpack it today. We don't have to solve that problem today. So in working with all of these bodies, how does that influence how you feel about your own body and your own like self-love?
I mean, that's a great question because moving to Vegas 15 years ago, it did. There were challenges because my husband is a performer with Cirque du Soleil. And so immediately, like my tribe of friends became these insanely talented performers who are basically athletes on stage. So my whole tribe would be just these gorgeous, perfect bodies. And, I'm an artist. I came from an art school. All my friends were artists back in Chicago, which is where I was born and raised. And I went to art school at the School of the Art Institute in Chicago. And, we were artists, like we were normal bodied. And it was hard. Like, for instance, like pool parties, or let's all rent a boat on Lake Mead and, run out there and everybody's doing flips off the top of the boat. And I really had to force myself to just say, I'm okay. This is okay. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to look like them. I'm not an athlete. My physicality is not tied to my paycheck. And, it had its challenges for sure. I think luckily, I was raised with good self-esteem. I'm super blessed to have, two wonderful parents who loved me, and I was aware that they loved me and they accepted me for who I was. And so, I do know not everybody has that. That's an incredibly lucky situation, that to be born into. And, that has served me well because I have been able to sort of overcome and, it's hard. And as I get older too, like I've just been noticing like I hit 45 and I felt like my metabolism just slowed like crazy. And even though I'm not doing anything differently, I'm still eating the same amount of activity. Like suddenly I started gaining weight, and sort of coming to terms with that is hard because on the one hand, you feel like, well, isn't it self-care and self-love for me to start exercising more and maybe eat even healthier? I eat pretty healthy, but like, aren't there things I could do to take care of myself? And then on the other hand, it's like, but aren't I okay the way that I am? And that's an interesting thing that I think all women and maybe all humans just have to deal with as we age. Like at what point do we stop pushing? And at what point do we start accepting? And what is the balance? And is that just an ongoing balance? And how do you feel about that? I mean, you also have gorgeous physique. I mean, you're tied to your physique. So, do those things ever happen to you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally hear you on just, being around the hard bodies all the time. I have a curvy figure, and I am in shape, but I also am not a Cirque du Soleil artist. So that's just like a different echelon of human being. But yeah, I definitely relate to that. And I really experienced that a lot in LA, and felt that a lot in LA when I was backstage with a lot of these girls who, um, you know, had like the perfect hair and the corsets and all the things. And I'm just like, but yeah, just kind of like talking to yourself and noticing when you're having these like comparative moments that can really bring you down, and then having to right yourself in those moments. And, it takes a lot of energy. But to your note of, as you're getting older and things are changing, I mean, I'm definitely feeling that as well. And yes, my paycheck is my physicality. So, that can be a challenge to kind of grapple with that. But it's really, it's like the question of, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for other people? Am I doing this because I want to look good, or because I want to feel good? And those are two very different things. And, you went to yoga, you're keeping, you're keeping your mobility, you're keeping your strength, you're keeping your flexibility. And so that's like, what's most important to me is just feeling like my abilities are still there, and like my body can function in the way that I want it to function. And knowing that that's going to change shape depending on, where I am in my life. I've had many different shapes, in my life, and some are more noticeable than others. Especially during the month. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, that is that time, isn't it? So, yeah, it's hard to put all of your confidence in your outward appearance. Like, your confidence, well, I always say on the show, has to come from the bottom up. So that's what I believe. And I'm happy to hear that you've had good support in all of that.
So let me ask you a question, because, so many of my friends who are basically athletes, they're acrobats, they're performers, they're dancers. They do feel like there is some looming time limit on their career because, like I have friends that are in their mid 30s that are entering into their early 40s, and they're still flipping across stage and dropping 80 feet and swinging, and, and they're starting to feel it in their knees, their ankles, and it's interesting because a lot of them really are forced to grapple with, like, is there something after this that I need to start thinking about? Is that something that you ever think about?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about it since I started, to be honest. Like, I started doing burlesque at 23. I started, was it 22 maybe? Yeah. Yeah. I'm celebrating 20 years in burlesque, which is crazy to me because I was like, well, who knows if I'm going to be able to do this when I'm 30? And then it was like, who knows if I'm going to be able to do this when I'm 35, and then 40. And it was like, are all my limbs going to fall off? Like, what's going to happen? But honestly, I feel better in my body now than I did then. But yeah, I mean, that's always there. Like, what's the deadline? Like, and I do think about what it is that I'm doing after this. And I hope maybe all performers have thought about that because of the pandemic and the lockdown. It's like, what happens when we don't have this thing, and it's hard to be in that place when you're hedging your bets, right? Like, you want to go all in, but then there's also this part of you that's like, yeah, but it's not forever,
It's great to see that. I feel like at least we're living in a time where those barriers aren't as strict. It's not such a wall that you have to climb over. Like, I feel like it's a little bit more up to us as more women are doing, even producing in Hollywood. Like, so many women in Hollywood are like, these roles aren't coming to me. I'm tired of waiting for someone else to give me permission. So I'm going to direct, I'm going to produce. And it's finally like cracking open the industry that if we are calling the shots, then we don't have to be waiting for permission to do whatever we want at whatever age we are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, times are changing, and hopefully we're around to see just exactly how much they're going to change, because all these women have come before us, knocking down doors and doing all of this, and all of our ancestors and predecessors doing all this hard work. And like we still have work to do, but we're also benefiting so much from all of their efforts.
What
Okay,
would
I
you
went.
do in burlesque? I'm just curious.
What'd you say?
What would you do if you weren't doing burlesque?
Well, I I feel like I'd be a very good editor. Like I don't have technical skills, but I feel like I have good editing skills, just generally speaking. But I am studying to be an intimacy coordinator right now, and I'm also like very interested in sex and pleasure and sensuality and intimacy. So it's not that far of a cry from burlesque, but yeah, it's fun to like pursue these different avenues, and I'm not quite sure where that's going to end up or what I'm going to be doing with it, but for now, I'm just eating. I'm just gathering information and consuming.
Cool. Like this podcast, I've been listening to it and it's so fun. I just listened to, is it Jave DeBay?
Yeah, she was great. I loved her.
I see friends I know on here like Bettina. I was doing a yoga class with Bettina today. And I was like, oh, I'm doing Michelle's podcast, so bravo on this because I can't believe you've done like over 40 episodes now. And it's such a wonderful assortment of souls that you are gathering. This might also just lead you into different areas of study and things like that. But bravo.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this is definitely a passion project for me. And I love having these conversations where we get to talk about confidence and how we got to be confident, or maybe we're still working on confidence, and like having these vulnerable conversations with a variety of different people all on different paths is super fun for me. So I have one last question for you. Wonder Woman. Yes. So you paint her over and over and over again in many different styles and situations. What is your love of Wonder Woman, and how does that inspire you?
I think my love of Wonder Woman was born just because there was such a scarcity of role models like her for young girls when I was growing up. I mean, I was born in the 70s, and there wasn't really anything else on TV except for Linda Carter, spinning around from her work clothes to her super spangled bathing suit, like leotard thingy. And she was just so powerful and beautiful and just captivating. And I feel like everybody wanted to be Wonder Woman, but also because there wasn't anything else to offer. I mean, maybe you could relate to like Catwoman, back then as a little kid. And if so, like, I want to party with you, I want to go get a drink and hear about that. But, like I had two sisters, so there's three of us. And when we'd want to play Wonder Woman, like, who's going to play Wonder Woman? Like, we would argue about like who got to play it because there was no other choice. And so I think that's, it's sad. And then as I grew older, of course things have expanded. Like I remember even the very first like female badass in film was Terminator, when she came back, and it's Linda Hamilton, I think she came back. Of course, her husband was the one directing. She probably had to really lobby to even get that role, but she was the first ass kicker in cinema as a female. And then I think Laura Dern was showing some feminist, chutzpah in the Jurassic Park films. But, it's hard. It's hard to imagine how little of that there was when I was growing up, because I was already like, into my young adulthood by the time those things came along. And so, for me, it really, I think there just wasn't a lot else. So it got deep into my psyche. And then even when it did become like more options, she just kind of stayed in there and started to represent like the do-it-all woman. Like, I love how independent she is. She may have had some romantic dalliances, but she was definitely like on her own independent woman. And she became sort of synonymous with like the do-it-all woman, that I think so many of us can relate to. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, I'm an artist, I'm a wife, I'm a friend. There's so many a community leader. I'm an activist. So, there's a lot of layers to women. And I feel like Wonder Woman kind of represents that. But, another thing that it sort of struck me hard just thinking about it, especially during Black Lives Matter, is if that's all I felt like I could relate to in my childhood, what was there if you didn't have white skin? And that was something that really struck me, that, there's even less for young girls to choose from. And so I had been thinking for so long, I want to do, more variety in skin tone. And I didn't feel like I really had like permission to, until one of my friends from high school wrote me and she's like, listen, I want you to do one of your Wonder Woman paintings, but I want you to make it look like my daughter's skin type. Like, can you do dark skin? Can you do curly hair? And it was awesome because this little girl kind of sent me on this path where I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I made this custom piece for her. And I had, the inspirational, like, cartoon bubble of a message that said, you're more powerful than you can imagine. Use your power wisely or something like that. And, it was such a fun experience. I wanted to do more. But again, being a white woman, I was like, do I have permission to do this? And I was in Sedona during the pandemic. I went camping with my son. And part of my mission in Sedona was like, I'm going to find a gallery. I'm just going to put this out into the universe. And I just want to come back here and make art. And I walked into this amazing space called the Sedona Arts Academy. And I met the wonderful director, Camilla Ross, and she's a Black woman. She runs it with another Black woman, Karen Loomis. And I told them about the idea and they loved it. And I feel like that was sort of the permission that I needed to do it. So I went back home and I made like Wonder Woman of every skin tone, every shade, every eye color. And we had a big exhibit at the Sedona Arts Academy. And one of the things that was fun was I did a live body paint at the same time on this beautiful Black woman. She comes from like a military background and a sports background. She was a college basketball player. So she hasn't necessarily had a lot of like, really getting dolled up like the way, getting body painted, having all that attention. And she had so much fun with the process. I painted her against the backdrop of one of my paintings where there was like stripes of different like skin tones on one huge iconic Wonder Woman portrait. And I painted her against that. And she's using it for the album cover. Her name is Becca Woodbury, and she's coming out with a album. She named it Black Wonder, and she's using that image of herself painted against the canvas as the album cover. So it's just a beautiful, like, fun, full circle moment of all these thoughts.
Yeah, that's amazing, and really points to the vulnerability of your creativity, because you don't know how things are going to be received and how much they're going to touch people and affect people. And you, my dear, are a Wonder Woman.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Robin, where can people find all of your beautiful work?
You can find it on my website, which is robinslonina.com. It's like, imagine a little girl named Nina, but she's like slow. And then just like drop the W. That's my name, Slonina. So yeah, robinslonina.com or at robinslonina on Instagram, on Twitter, on all the things, on Facebook. Yeah. And then I also am super excited because Skin City is, after years of research, we're finally launching a fully biodegradable glitter balm that I've been working on this for so long, girl, and it's like finally happened. I really wanted to find something that's all natural. It's all made in America in the Las Vegas Arts District, and we're just about to launch. So if anyone's interested in biodegradable glitter balm made with all natural materials, you can find that at glitterbalm.vegas.
Is it Bomb, B-O-M-B, or Balm, B-A-L-M?
Yes, it is a balm, but it's called Glitter Balm.
Okay, cool. Got you. Do you sell loose glitter? Because I'm looking for that as well.
Yes, biodegradable loose glitter. Yes, we don't have it on the website yet, but it's definitely coming, and I have some for you. I'll hook you up.
All right, Robin. I'll be seeing you. I'll be wearing your glitter. All over my body.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. Make sure everybody you go and follow Robin Slonina without the W. I'm like, oh, she said this before many times. And spread your legs and spread the love and like and follow and share and subscribe. And you can follow me here at I Look Down There or at Michelle Amore. And remember that confidence comes from the bottom up. So grab a mirror and look down there. Till next time.